Well, in honor of the one-year anniversary of the first cases of COVID-19 in Michigan, Fox 17 is sharing stories of inspiration to those who need it most.
Brody Carter joining us with more from those who've sacrificed so much to keep the people we know and love safe. Brody?
Mike, Deanna, after more than a year of COVID-19 coverage, news about the virus has become an integral part of our everyday lives. So I spoke with two frontline workers about what they've had to suffer through, their resilience, now spreading the much-needed message of hope.
I look back on this last year as a year that I'll obviously never forget.
Simply thinking about 2020 can be hard to do, especially for those who came face to face with COVID-19.
We're a level 1 trauma center here in Grand Rapids.
Kendra Piat, managing nurse for Spectrum Butterworth Hospital's emergency department, says the thousands of lives lost due to the virus is a difficult burden to bear. And she remembers the entire year playing out like a nightmare.
Obviously, COVID overshadowed a lot, but we dealt with things like civil unrest, and we had a lot of disturbances that are very unsettling for an emergency department that we had to manage alongside of this pandemic.
For Kendra, it was one disruption after another.
I had a fair amount of my staff that did, get COVID.
I think that we have all dealt with trauma. And I think we have all had extreme stress.
Melissa Jones, formerly a registered nurse at Spectrum, was one of the countless nurses who fought on the front lines, ending up with some of the worst symptoms of COVID-19.
I was sick for about 6 weeks, total recovery before I got back to full steam.
Since her story first aired on Fox 17 News back in December, Melissa has stepped down from her duties in the emergency room.
I think it was emotionally taxing watching patients go through treatment of COVID. So after almost a year of kind of being in that environment and taking all of that home and not having a good place to put it when you get home, I took an opportunity to kind of reevaluate what my goals were and for lack of a better explanation, put myself first.
And now 1 year into the pandemic, both Melissa and Kendra say they're shifting their focus, taking what they've learned and lived through and turning it into hope, now sharing it with those around them.
People were providing food for the staff. They were providing numerous letters of gratitude and recognizing healthcare workers over and over again. And that really got us through as well.
And so I think it's from my home life made me appreciate time with my kids more, time with my parents more. Certainly being on lockdown has helped me appreciate going out for dinner.
And as the days become months, become years, those who've suffered and watched those around them suffer too are finding a newfound gratefulness and strength to move forward.
Now, we did ask Spectrum Health how many employees have tested positive for COVID-19 since the pandemic. Nearly 3,400 employees out of their 31,000 staff members were infected with the virus at some point. That's more than 10% of their workforce. Simply hard to imagine. Kendra says that Spectrum Butterworth has returned to a 3% admittance of patients at their hospital, and they have hopes that this downward trend will continue with the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine. In studio, Brody Carter, Fox 17 News.